In 2005, a chilling true story shook Taiwan, later inspiring the horror film Incantation. It unfolded in an old residential area in Gushan District, Kaohsiung City, where the Wu family of 6 lived a seemingly ordinary life. The parents, both 56, were hardworking painters raising 4 children. Their eldest daughter, 29, ran a bento box business in Taipei with her boyfriend. The second daughter, in her early 20s, worked as a nurse. Their son, also in his early 20s, was employed in printing. The youngest daughter, 23, was a university student in northern Taiwan. With stable jobs and a normal life, no one could have predicted the eerie tragedy that would befall them. The Wu family were devout, maintaining a home altar to worship deities. One day, the couple visited a temple in Nanzi District to pray. The temple's priest, a stranger to them, ominously hinted that something unclean lingered in their home. Alarmed, they invited a Taoist priest to perform a purification ritual. Following the priest's advice, they removed their statue of the third prince, a revered deity in Chinese folk religion, and replaced it with another deity statue brought from elsewhere. They believed this would bring peace to their household, unaware that what they were venerating might not be divine. Soon after, strange events began to unfold. In late February 2005, the youngest daughter, studying in the north, called her parents, claiming she had received a divine message from the third prince. The message warned that her eldest sister in Taipei must return home before the month's end, or she would face certain death. Panicked, Mr. and Mrs. Wu traveled north the next day to bring both daughters back to Kaohsiung. That night, the eldest daughter had a terrifying nightmare in which she was humiliated and violated. From then on, she refused to sleep, haunted by the fear that the horrific visions would return. Days later, she received a mysterious phone call. No one knew who called or what was said, not even the family. But after the call, she entered a trance-like state, proclaiming herself the spokesperson of the Bodhisattva. She screamed, collapsed emotionally, and began harming herself. Terrified, her parents took the entire family to a temple on Wuji Mountain in Hsinchu for a spiritual cleansing ritual, hoping to expel the unclean force tormenting their daughter. After the ritual, the family returned to Kaohsiung, but the situation only worsened. One by one, all 6 family members began exhibiting signs of possession, as if cursed by an evil spirit. The second daughter claimed to be the 7th fairy maiden, a mythical figure in Chinese folklore. The youngest daughter declared herself the third prince. The son identified as Master Jigong, a legendary monk. Mr. and Mrs. Wu believed they were possessed by the Jade Emperor and the Queen Mother of the West, supreme deities in Taoism. The family descended into a frenzied state of collective trance. During these episodes, they harmed themselves or attacked one another with ancestral tablets, sacred objects used in Chinese worship. To expel the spirits possessing their kin, they even burned each other with lit incense sticks. When not in a trance, the family refused to eat or sleep, surviving only on talisman water infused with sacred ashes believed to have spiritual power, out of fear of being possessed again. This ordeal lasted nearly 20 days. Neighbors occasionally heard their screams during these episodes and began to think the family had gone mad. Even relatives living downstairs fled to a hotel, too frightened to stay. Yet, no one reported the situation to the police. On the evening of April 9th, the eldest daughter was found foaming at the mouth, her limbs cold and unresponsive. The second daughter, a nurse, attempted CPR but gave up when it failed. The family, still gripped by their beliefs, insisted she was merely out of her body and that the evil spirit possessing her, not their daughter, had caused her collapse. Despite clear signs she was no longer alive, they did not seek immediate medical help. 2 days later, Mrs. Wu entered another trance, this time claiming to be possessed by the spirit of her eldest daughter. The spirit announced she had left the mortal world. Only then did the family realize their daughter was dead. They called an ambulance, and on the afternoon of April 11th, she was rushed to Kaohsiung Medical University Hospital. Despite efforts, she could not be revived. Her body bore bruises and burns, but these were not severe enough to cause cardiac arrest. Doctors determined her death resulted from prolonged starvation and exhaustion. The hospital tried repeatedly to contact the family, but failed. 3 days later, They notified the police. Authorities located the remaining 5 family members hiding in a temple in Tainan, too terrified to return home for fear of further possession. The police questioned them, and though they appeared outwardly normal and coherent, their statements were bizarre and nonsensical. When their clothes were removed, their bodies were covered in bruises and burns identical to those on the eldest daughter. The police ordered medical and psychiatric evaluations for all 5. Investigators searched the Wu family's home and found talismans plastered on every door and window. The house reeked of a foul odor, as the family had smeared themselves with excrement and even consumed it, believing it would ward off evil spirits. Mr. Wu later testified that, during his possession, he knew he was handling filth but felt no disgust. He described acting without awareness, as if in a blackout, and perceived his family members not as loved ones but as demons, leading them to harm one another. The case sparked widespread shock in Taiwan. Folklorists suggested the family had been possessed by malevolent spirits masquerading as deities, a phenomenon known as being possessed by ghosts in Chinese culture. They noted the house's feng shui was problematic. It faced a major road, a layout called road clash that's believed to attract negative energy, and its asymmetrical structure could trap malevolent forces. Psychiatrists, however, proposed a diagnosis of collective delusional disorder, a rare condition where a group shares and reinforces a false belief system. The Wu family's deep-rooted faith in spiritual practices likely fueled their obsession, blinding them to reality. As the film Incantation later suggested, your beliefs shape your fate. The family's unwavering superstition may have driven this tragedy. Regardless of the cause, in a society governed by law, the family faced legal consequences. After over 2 years of investigation, the Kaohsiung prosecutor's office charged the 5 surviving members with abandonment leading to death in 2007, as they were deemed mentally competent at the time of the incident. Soon after the eldest daughter's death, neighbors raised funds to hire a Taoist priest to perform a ritual at the Wu home, cleansing it of malevolent forces and guiding the daughter's soul to peace. After the ceremony, the family gradually returned to normalcy and the possessions ceased. Their lives regained a semblance of calm, but the absence of their eldest daughter left an unhealing wound in their hearts. In the 1960s, Taiwan was riding a wave of export-driven growth, fueled by the ambitious 10 major construction projects. The economy was booming at a breakneck pace, and as the capital, Taipei was transforming rapidly, with high-rise buildings sprouting across the city. In 1976, the state-of-the-art structure was completed at the intersection of Xinxing North Road and Jinzhou Street. Originally named Butterfly Mansion, it was the precursor to what would later be known as Jinxin Building. This multi-purpose edifice boasted a fully enclosed glass curtain wall system, a rarity in Taiwan at the time, paired with a revolving door on the ground floor, exuding an air of unmatched sophistication. The 14-story building was a marvel of modern design. The first and second floors housed a shopping center and food court. Floors 3 to 5 were dedicated to offices, and the upper floors, from 6 onward, contained upscale, compact apartments. The basement featured a beauty salon, sauna, and restaurant. Most impressively, the rooftop boasted a helipad, a luxury typically reserved for elite hotels in that era. Such a cutting-edge building quickly caught the eye of investors. The construction company capitalized on the buzz, offering a lucrative rental scheme. Invest over 200,000 new Taiwan dollars and sign a 3-year leaseback agreement, and you'd earn a guaranteed 9,000 NTD per month. In Taiwan's economic golden age, when money was said to flow up to your ankles, every apartment was snapped up in no time. Savvy investors saw an opportunity. Since everyone was leasing back their units, why not pool resources and transform the building into a hotel? Thus, Butterfly Mansion was reborn as the Times Hotel and began operations. But where there are many people, there are many opinions. Internal disputes plagued the venture, and after just 1 year, the Times Hotel faltered due to mismanagement and shut its doors. By late 1982, foreign investors had taken over various floors, acting as secondary landlords and leasing out the spaces. Thanks to the building's prime location, it attracted a wave of entertainment businesses, restoring its former bustle. As dreams of wealth flourished, a devastating fire shattered those aspirations. On the morning of May 28, 1984, Partygoers who had stayed up all night were still asleep in their rooms. It wasn't an alarm clock that woke them, but the terrified screams of residents and the acrid smell of smoke. A short circuit in the wiring above the second-floor restaurant had sparked a fire. The chef, who had slept in the restaurant overnight, discovered the blaze early but was powerless to stop its rapid spread alone. The once proud glass curtain walls became a deadly accomplice, trapping residents inside and preventing smoke from escaping, turning the building into a giant furnace, a living hell. Despite desperate attempts to break the windows, many succumbed to the intense heat and toxic fumes, choosing to jump from the building to escape. The chaos led to severe injuries as people landed on one another. Tragically, a firefighter at the scene was also injured, crushed under the weight of falling bodies. The fire claimed 19 lives and injured 47, making it the deadliest blaze in Taipei since the 1966 Xinqing Theater fire. Heartbreakingly, many of the deceased could have escaped but perished from smoke inhalation while hiding in bathrooms. The disaster exposed glaring public safety issues and underscored the critical need for fire safety education. Authorities determined the fire resulted from negligence, and the case was referred to prosecutors, holding the hotel's management and related parties accountable. The Times Hotel faded into history. After its closure, the building was taken over and renovated, reopening as the Yushur Hotel in hopes of a fresh start. But poor management led it back to hosting entertainment businesses. In 1993, it was renamed Jinxin Building and converted into rental apartments. As residents moved in, the central air conditioning system was dismantled, and tenants replaced the glass walls with standard windows or balconies. The fire department conducted multiple rescue drills at Jinxin Building, determined to prevent another tragedy like the Times Hotel fire. Those drills proved vital. On November 13, 1996, another fire broke out at Jinxin Building. Thanks to prior experience, the fire department responded swiftly, deploying 57 fire trucks, 18 ambulances, and over 280 firefighters, many of whom had worked the 1984 blaze. While the response was more efficient, the fire still claimed 2 lives and injured 60. One victim, unable to endure the heat, jumped from a high floor but struck an air conditioning unit during the fall, resulting in a gruesome decapitation. The cause was even more shocking. The fire was deliberately set due to a personal dispute between a resident and another individual, sparking outrage. After this second fire, Jinxin Building never regained its former glory. More tragedies followed. In 2010, a murder-suicide occurred inside the building when a man killed his girlfriend before taking his own life. In 2016, another fire broke out but fortunately caused no casualties. Over 4 decades, Jinxin Building suffered 3 major fires, claiming over 20 lives. A 1986 incident, the roasted dumpling vendor case, was mistakenly tied to Jinxin Building through local gossip. A woman, distraught over a romantic issue, attempted suicide by jumping from a building on Linshan North Road, landing on a street vendor selling roasted dumplings on the ground floor. The woman survived, but the vendor died. Though this occurred at a nearby building, rumors falsely placed it at Jinxin Building, adding to its eerie reputation. These events fueled a growing mystique around Jinxin Building, spawning tales of the supernatural. With the rise of online food delivery in recent years, a delivery worker shared a chilling experience on social media. Late one night, he accepted an order from Jinxin Building. Despite hearing rumors of its haunted past, he brushed them off and proceeded with the delivery. Upon arriving, he entered the elevator and pressed the button for the 12th floor, where the customer awaited. Moments later, the elevator began shaking violently. The display showed it had reached the 12th floor, but the doors wouldn't open. Pressing the open button did nothing. As the shaking continued, the elevator suddenly plummeted, stopping abruptly at the 6th floor, still with the doors sealed shut. Panicked, he frantically pressed the emergency button and the 1st floor button. The elevator moved again, this time stopping at the basement level, B1. The doors, previously stuck, creaked open to reveal a solid white wall blocking the exit. Terrified, he closed his eyes and prayed. He felt the doors slowly close, and the elevator moved again. When he opened his eyes, he was back on the 1st floor. Shaken, he recounted the ordeal to the building manager, who, expressionless, simply told him to take another elevator, as if such incidents were commonplace. Another well-known tale involves a rookie police officer, fresh out of the academy, and assigned to the Zhongshan police station. Looking for affordable housing nearby, he found Jinshin Building's low rent appealing. Colleagues warned him against it, but young and fearless, he ignored them and arranged to view an apartment. Arriving early, he greeted the building manager and decided to check out the floor on his own. As he stepped out of the elevator, he met a refined-looking woman who warmly asked, "Are you here to see an apartment?" They chatted like old friends for nearly half an hour. When the landlord arrived, the officer turned to introduce the woman, only to find her gone. The landlord, curious, asked, "Who were you talking to just now?" After hearing the officer's description, the landlord's face darkened. "That sounds like my previous tenant." She was deceived by her boyfriend into working at a bar and later took her own life. The officer's legs trembled with fear, and he fled the building, too shaken to sign the lease. Another eerie account comes from a group of reporters who visited Jinshin Building to film a story. As they entered the elevator and pressed the button to go down, it inexplicably shot upward. Frantically pressing buttons yielded no response. When it stopped at the 12th floor, the doors opened to an empty hallway. Relieved when the elevator finally responded and returned them to the first floor, they opted to take the stairs to film each level. On the 6th floor, they found a small, seemingly abandoned room. Inside were 2 photographs surrounded by ancestral tablets, memorials for the deceased in Chinese tradition. The sight led them to wonder if this was a shrine for the building's victims. Continuing to the rooftop, they discovered a small structure emitting a faint red glow. Inside were statues of Ksitigarbha, a Buddhist bodhisattva associated with the underworld, and Thousand-Armed Guanyin, the bodhisattva of compassion. Rumors suggested this was a shrine to pacify the building's restless spirits. The building management, however, clarified that the 6th-floor room was not a memorial for fire victims, but a communal ancestral hall set up by a group of migrants from the same hometown who had come to Taipei for work. The rooftop Ksitigarbha shrine, originally located on the 1st floor, was relocated when that space was converted into a parking lot. In the 1980s, Taiyuan City, located in northern Taiwan near the bustling metropolis of Taipei, was a thriving urban hub with over 2 million residents. Amid its lively streets stood a dilapidated building, abandoned for years, its interior hollowed out. Yet, at the entrance on the ground floor, a row of ancestral tablets, memorials for the deceased in Chinese tradition, piqued the curiosity of passers-by. What story lurked within this forsaken structure? Guahan Plaza, situated near Taoyuan Railway Station, began as a commercial complex built in the 1980s. This building, with 1 basement and 5 floors above ground, housed a food court, karaoke lounges, amusement arcades, clothing stores, hair salons, and a hotel. Floors 3 and 4 were home to the Huagua Theater, Huaguashuan, leading locals to nickname the entire complex after the theater. During Taiwan's economic boom of the 1980s, when wealth was said to flow up to your ankles, the theater and its surrounding businesses thrived. The commercial hub was a magnet for crowds seeking entertainment and shopping, capitalizing on the era's prosperity. But this golden era at Huagua Theater lasted only a decade. On January 27, 1990, the first day of the Lunar New Year, Taiwan was immersed in festive celebrations. At around 7:30 p.m., piercing sirens shattered the holiday cheer as fire trucks raced through the streets. A fire had erupted in an art tea house in the basement of Huagua Theater. Despite firefighters arriving within 3 minutes of the emergency call, the building's flammable decor fueled the blaze, which engulfed the structure in minutes, transforming it into a raging inferno. The building's complex layout, with cluttered hallways blocked by miscellaneous items, hindered rescue efforts. After relentless work, firefighters extinguished the flames and navigated the charred staircases to the upper floors. There, they discovered victims burned beyond recognition. In the theater's restroom on the 3rd floor, they found a harrowing sight: 19 bodies piled in the cramped space. The rooftop emergency exit had been locked, trapping those inside with no escape. In total, 28 people perished, some so badly burned that their identities couldn't be confirmed. Authorities later established a memorial altar on the ground floor to honor the victims. After the tragedy, Hua Theater was abandoned. Charred marks scarred its exterior walls, sending chills down the spines of passers-by. Many locals avoided the area entirely, choosing detours to steer clear of the eerie site. Without the theater's bustling crowds, nearby shops withered, and the once vibrant commercial hub became a desolate relic, shrouded in ghostly rumors. In the 1990s, Taiwan's occult TV shows flocked to the site for filming. The Hong Kong paranormal program Strange Tales visited twice, but both times, production halted abruptly when accompanying Taoist priests sensed danger. Years later, a netizen named A Ming, a pseudonym, shared a chilling experience at Hua Theater on a Facebook group called Spiritual Community. The incident occurred over a decade after the fire. A Ming, a student who had moved to Taiwan from his hometown, quickly adapted to his new life. One evening, he and his classmate A Wei went to eat near the railway station. On their way back, they passed the abandoned Hua Theater. A Ming glanced at the dilapidated building, intrigued. A Wei, a Taiwan native familiar with its grim history, urged him, "Hurry up." When A Ming, an outsider, asked about the theater's past, A Wei shared its tragic story. Curious, A Ming suggested exploring inside, but A Wei snapped, "Are you nuts? I'm not going in there." A week later, unable to suppress his curiosity, A Ming persuaded A Wei to join him. A lot of people who went in had bad experiences, A Wei warned. "It's really creepy in there. Let's not risk it." A Ming reassured him. "Don't worry, I'll come prepared. If anything feels off, we'll leave immediately." Reluctantly, A Wei agreed. As evening fell on the day of their exploration, they visited a nearby Ksitigarbha temple, a Buddhist deity associated with guiding lost souls, to pray for safety. At the theater's ground floor entrance, they lit incense at the memorial altar. A Ming tossed 2 10 NTD coins to perform a divination, a traditional Chinese practice to seek spirits' permission. "A holy sign," he exclaimed, interpreting the result as approval to enter. They stepped into the building. The first-floor lobby was a rubble-strewn ruin, empty and desolate. Cold sweat beaded on their foreheads as an oppressive atmosphere enveloped them. They climbed the cluttered staircase to the second floor, where a loud crash, like something shattering, echoed through the building. Both froze, trembling with fear. After calming themselves, they pressed on, with A Ming leading and A Wei close behind. The higher they climbed, the heavier the psychological weight grew. Wind whistled through broken windows, sounding like mournful wails. They crossed a barricade and entered the third-floor restroom, its walls blackened by smoke. Charred traces of burned joss paper, offerings for the dead, littered the floor. A Ming lit incense and joss paper, then tossed the coins again to communicate with any spirits present. He asked several questions, but each toss yielded a negative response. Finally, he asked, "Do you all desperately want to go home?" The coins landed, one heads, one tails. "A holy sign," A Ming declared as the joss paper burned low. They left the restroom, intending to explore the fourth floor. Suddenly, ceiling tiles crashed down, narrowly missing them. A Ming tossed the coins again, asking, "Is this a sign we shouldn't go further?" Then, "Is there something more dangerous upstairs?" And finally, "Should we leave?" 3 consecutive holy signs heightened the tension. A Wei broke the silence. "That's enough for today. Let's get out of here." But A Ming, determined, thought, "I've come this far. I need to see more." He told A Wei to wait at the staircase and ventured alone to the fourth floor. Moments later, a wooden beam flew from nowhere, striking his head. A Ming yelped in pain. "Are you okay?" A Wei called from the third floor. Rubbing his head, A Ming assured him he was fine and continued toward the theater. As he neared the theater entrance, a putrid stench overwhelmed him, causing him to cough violently. Just as he stepped forward, a thigh-sized wooden beam crashed from above the doorway, missing his face by inches. A faint voice hissed in his ear, "Get out." Terrified, A Ming realized he had to leave. He rushed back to the third floor, only to find A Wei slumped unconscious on the staircase. Shaking him awake, A Ming asked what happened. A Wei stammered, "After you went up, I smelled something foul. Then I saw white, ghostly figures drifting past me toward the upper floors. After that, I don't remember anything." As they spoke, A Ming felt an icy chill from the staircase behind him. Turning, he saw a row of shadowy figures staring at them. Panic-stricken, they bolted downstairs, fleeing in terror. Still shaken, they returned to the Ksitigarbha temple to light incense. At the temple gate, whether from exhaustion or fear, Aiming fainted. In his unconscious state, he dreamed of Ksitigarbha speaking to him. "Come, they're just misguided children. Let me guide them to where they belong." A translucent figure appeared behind Aiming, following Ksitigarbha into the distance. When Aiming awoke, he felt an overwhelming sense of relief. Turning to a worried Awei, he said, "It's okay now. Let's go home." Their harrowing adventure ended safely. Years later, neither Aiming nor Awei encountered further incidents. But passing by Huagua Theater always sent shivers down their spines, the memory of that night lingering. In 2009, as part of an urban redevelopment plan, the building, abandoned for nearly 2 decades, was demolished. Before its destruction, large-scale memorial ceremonies were held, and the 28 ancestral tablets from the ground floor were relocated to the nearby Aiming Temple. Soon after, the building was razed, and the site was transformed into a green park. The flat lawn featured 7 trees, which some feng shui experts claimed were deliberately arranged in a 7-star formation to ward off evil spirits. Local authorities quickly dismissed the rumor. 7 years later, a developer purchased the land and built a residential complex. Despite online skepticism, with some refusing to live there even at low prices, the apartments, priced below market value, sold out before completion. To this day, no supernatural incidents have been reported. Are ghosts truly terrifying? The answer remains elusive. For many, the real horror lies in tragedies that tear families apart. The 28 victims of the Huagua Theater fire could never have imagined that a simple trip to the movies would mean they'd never return home. The chilling tale of Xining Guozhai, a modern social housing complex built in the 1980s in Taipei's Wanhua district, unfolds at the intersection of Zhongxiao West Road and Xining South Road. Nestled near the bustling Ximending commercial area and Taipei Main Station, with the Zhongxiao Bridge connecting the banks of the Tamsui River, its location was prime. Yet, this nearly 40-year-old building has been the site of over 30 unnatural incidents, cementing its reputation as a haunted residence. The story of Xining Guozhai begins over a century ago during Japan's colonial rule over Taiwan. By the early 20th century, Taipei's population had surged past 300,000, making it Taiwan's most densely populated city. This growth strained food supplies. Although Taipei had 5 public retail markets, it lacked a dedicated wholesale market. In 1922, the Japanese government established the Central Wholesale Market in Ximending to centralize the trade of seafood, produce, and meat, managed by the Taipei Central Market Corporation. In 1945, after World War II ended and Japan surrendered, Taiwan was handed over to the nationalist Kuomintang government. The Central Wholesale Market was renamed the Taipei City Central Market. Poor management led to chaos. The original auction system collapsed, prices fluctuated wildly, and farmers faced severe exploitation. By 1949, when the nationalist government relocated to Taiwan, the already cramped market became even more overcrowded as parts of the land were requisitioned for military use. Farmers arrived the evening before market days to secure spots, often fighting over limited space. Sanitation deteriorated, and local gangs fueled violence, extortion, fires, and killings, creating a pervasive atmosphere of brutality for decades. In the 1960s, the government planned to relocate the market, but delays persisted. Finally, in 1975, a new market on Dongyuan Street was completed, and all stalls were moved. This left the question, what to do with the valuable land of the old central market? To maximize this prime real estate, the government decided to build a mixed-use commercial and residential complex. Construction began in late 1976, with 3 contractors involved before completion. In 1981, Xining Guozhai, a social housing complex with 1 basement and 16 floors, was finished. The basement served as a parking garage, the first floor housed a market, floors 2 through 4 were city government offices, and floors 5 through 16 offered affordable housing for low-income residents and elderly veterans, accommodating nearly 500 households. Soon after its opening, problems emerged. Leaky pipes and peeling tiles revealed shoddy construction. During inspections, many components failed to meet standards, but collusion between officials and contractors allowed these issues to be overlooked, compromising the building's integrity. The consequences of this negligence soon became deadly. In 1987, both elevators in Building B of Xining Guizhai malfunctioned, stalling at the top floor with doors that wouldn't open. Trapped residents escaped through an emergency hatch on the elevator's roof, but a child attempting to flee fell from the 16th floor to the basement, dying instantly. The following year, a jealous lover committed a murder in the building, killing a man over a romantic dispute. These back-to-back tragedies in 1987 and 1988 left residents gripped by fear. In response, the government stationed a police precinct on the first floor. Yet, in 1991, 3 more accidents occurred. In one, a man fell from the building, landing on a police car's roof, a horrific scene that left onlookers trembling. In 2003, during the SARS outbreak, the first floor market was temporarily closed. When it reopened, 3 more deaths occurred within 2 months, all suicides by individuals suffering from chronic illnesses. Shockingly, none were residents of Xining Guizhai. In 2004, the number of falls peaked with 8 incidents. That same year, another elevator accident claimed an elderly woman who likely misstepped and fell down the shaft, her body found in the basement. Over the following years, accidents continued unabated. In 2008, a man determined to end his life tied a plastic bag over his head and jumped from the rooftop, leaving a gruesome scene. Afterward, management installed safety nets in the central atrium and added protective railings on the rooftop, effectively halting further jump-related suicides. Despite these measures, murders and supernatural rumors continued to haunt the building, fueling residents' unease. One resident shared a chilling experience. Returning home late from tutoring, she took the elevator to her 7th floor apartment. The elevator inexplicably stopped at the 4th floor, where the offices had long been empty. When the doors opened, she faced a pitch-black hallway with no one in sight. The doors slowly closed, and the elevator continued to the 7th floor. This incident led many residents to avoid riding the elevator alone at night. Others reported hearing unexplained crying echoing from the building's central atrium late at night, reverberating through the complex. Some claimed to have seen a shadowy figure in the atrium, seemingly beckoning people above to jump. A police officer stationed at the precinct anonymously told the media about eerie occurrences in the basement, originally used as sleeping quarters for officers. Even in the sweltering summer, the room was unnaturally cold, with no air conditioning. Officers woke up shivering despite blankets. One officer, resting on a single bed, awoke to find his body inexplicably rotated 180 degrees, his head at the foot of the bed, his feet at the head, with clear handprints on his ankles. Many officers preferred sleeping on sofas rather than in the basement room, which was eventually repurposed as an interrogation room. In 2014, after 6 years of relative calm, another woman jumped to her death, reigniting fears. As recently as April 2025, a woman struggling with emotional issues posted, "I'm leaving, I'm sorry," on her Facebook page. She was later found in the courtyard, having jumped from the 5th floor at midnight. Surveillance footage confirmed the act, and a printed copy of her post was found at the scene, adding another restless soul to Xining Guizhai's tally. From a chaotic market to a decaying social housing complex, Xining Guizhai has seen at least 30 unnatural incidents over 4 decades. Feng Shui experts suggest the building's design is flawed, and the name Xining, meaning Western peace, ominously implies resting in the West, a euphemism for death in Chinese culture. Most residents are low-income families or elderly veterans who fled to Taiwan with a nationalist government after the war, living in economic hardship. The lack of 24/7 management and open access to the first-floor market allowed anyone to enter freely, contributing to the string of tragedies. After years of negotiations between community leaders, management, and the government, residents are slated to relocate to the new Fuxing social housing complex in 2023. Xining Guizhai is scheduled for demolition and reconstruction in 2024. Hopefully, the rebuilt Xining Guizhai will usher in a new era, allowing its restless spirits to finally find peace. This eerie tale takes us to Route 139, a scenic road linking Zhonghua and Nantou in Taiwan. Known for its breathtaking views, especially through the Bagua mountain range, it has earned a chilling nickname, the Road of Death. Its treacherous curves, particularly at the 20K marker dubbed Death Curve, have been the site of countless tragic accidents, accompanied by a host of ghostly legends. One night, Xiaochen, pseudonym, a student at Daya University with a sensitivity to the supernatural, and a friend decided to go on a late-night motorcycle ride along Route 139. Riding separate bikes, they savored the cool, refreshing summer night air. The road was quiet, with few vehicles in sight. As they navigated a curve, the street lights ahead flickered erratically. Strangely, the flickering stopped as they approached. Xiaochen, attuned to otherworldly presences, felt a growing unease in the eerie atmosphere. After rounding another bend, he froze in terror. A figure stood in the middle of the road, raising a hand toward them. His friend, oblivious, didn't slow down and sped past. To Xiaochen's horror, his friend's side mirror seemed to collide with the figure's shoulder, or rather, pass through it. He realized this was no human. Glancing at his own side mirror, Xiaochen saw the figure wasn't following and sighed in relief. But the ordeal was far from over. A few curves later, he nearly crashed when he saw a woman in a red dress floating alongside his friend, matching their speed of 70 to 80 kilometers per hour, staring intently at him. His friend remained unaware. Sensing something to his right, Xiaochen turned and saw a man in red glaring at him menacingly. Overwhelmed, he flashed his headlights repeatedly to signal his friend to stop. The woman in red abruptly turned her head, locking eyes with Xiaochen. The man in red pressed a hand against Xiaochen's, as if angered by his actions. Xiaochen slammed on the brakes, but they failed. He eased off the throttle, coasting to the roadside. His friend, noticing something was wrong, stopped and approached confused. The red-clad figure stood nearby, staring at them. Xiaochen, too frightened to explain, urged his friend to rest for a moment. When the figures finally vanished, they hurriedly left, and Xiaochen's brakes miraculously worked again. Safely back at their dorm, Xiaochen recounted the terrifying encounter. His friend, who had seen nothing, trembled upon hearing the story, confirming local warnings, never ride Route 139 at night. Chen Wei-min, a Taiwanese entertainer known as the Ghost King, often shares paranormal tales on TV, including legends about Route 139. One story involves a group of thrill-seeking youths who plan a nighttime ride on the road. Emboldened by their numbers, they set out, laughing and enjoying the cool breeze. Suddenly, a pseudonym, riding in front, noticed a vehicle trying to overtake them. Glancing at his side mirror, he saw an elderly woman on a bicycle, her white hair flowing, dressed in gray clothing reminiscent of early Republic-era fashion circa 1912 to 1949. Astonishingly, she was keeping pace with their 60 kilometers per hour speed. Away, amused that a group of young riders was being outdone by an old woman, accelerated, and the others followed suit. Soon, the woman disappeared from his mirror. But after rounding a curve, he spotted her again, rapidly approaching as if to overtake them. "Grandma, how are you so fast?" Wei shouted, accelerating further. The group surged ahead, leaving her behind once more. When Wei noticed his friends lagging, he turned back to regroup. Finding them resting by the roadside, he complained, "Why do you stop without saying anything?" They replied, "We got tired and needed a break." As they chatted, Wei heard the sound of bicycle chains rattling and looked ahead. The elderly woman sped past from the opposite direction, an impossible feat since she hadn't passed them earlier. How could an ordinary cyclist, let alone an elderly woman, achieve such speed? A chill ran through Wei. He asked, "Did you guys see that old lady in gray? How's she biking so fast?" His friends looked puzzled. "A bicycle?" There was no bicycle. Wei insisted, "The old lady in gray with flowery pants. She just passed us." They shook their heads. "You're crazy. It's just us out here. And you were going way too fast. Dangerous stuff." As they exchanged glances, Wei realized he'd seen something unearthly. He urged everyone to leave. Sensing his panic, they grew nervous, hopped on their bikes, and prepared to go. Then terror struck. They all saw the elderly woman Wei described, standing in front of his bike, staring at them. Stranger still, she had no lower body. Route 139 is near several cemeteries, including an ancient tomb from the Daoguang era, 1820 to 1850, with its own tale. The area has long been a vital route between Zhonghua and Nantou, but in the past, with no villages or shops along the way, bandits roamed freely, robbing and killing travelers. In 1823, legend holds that the spirits of those slain by bandits took human form and visited Lukong, hiring a shadow puppet troupe for a performance. The show drew a large crowd and bustling market stalls. During a scene where a monk character said, "Amitba," the crowd and stalls vanished, and the lights went out. The 7 puppeteers, terrified, fled without their props, running along Route 139. Unfamiliar with the terrain, they wandered until they died of exhaustion. Their bodies were later found, and their families buried them together in what's now called the 7-pit ancient tomb Chi Kwanggumu. During Japan's early colonial rule, Bagua Mountain saw fierce battles between local militias and Japanese forces, resulting in heavy casualties. Some believe these events imbue the area with heavy yin energy, negative spiritual energy in Chinese belief, contributing to frequent accidents. In 2018, over 180 accidents occurred in just 6 months, nearly one daily. That year, during the 7th lunar month, a time for honoring the dead in Chinese tradition, Zhonghua city officials invited Taoist priests to hold a grand ceremony on Route 139, offering 100 tables of tributes to appease the souls lost there, hoping to reduce accidents. While crashes decreased, inexplicable fatal accidents persisted. In July 2025, a motorcyclist on a high-powered bike crashed on Route 139 for unknown reasons, striking a roadside tree and dying instantly. Drivers often report unexplainable incidents, vehicles suddenly veering out of control or motorbikes crashing without cause. Along the road, Buddhist sutra-inscribed cloth strips are tied to trees and joss paper, offerings for the dead, occasionally floats across the ground. This eerie atmosphere, coupled with countless lost souls, has made Route 139 a terrifying road steeped in ghostly lore. This chilling tale takes us to Nan Di Wang Building, a 20-story structure on Amitba Road in the East District of Jiayi City, Taiwan. Only 28 years old, this towering edifice has earned a grim reputation among locals, whispered to be even more haunted than the infamous Minxiong ghost house. Nan Di Wang Building, home to nearly 700 households, sits on Amitba Road, just a 10-minute drive from Jiayi Railway Station and 5 minutes from the highway. Its prime location, surrounded by schools, hospitals, a national sports center, and a park, offers a high quality of life. Across the street, the lively Amitba night market buzzes with activity at dusk. Yet, beneath this vibrant facade lie dark secrets few dare to discuss. In 1996, as construction neared completion, a shocking double suicide rocked the community. A teenage boy named Wang from Jiayi High School and a girl named Yang from Hongren High School, caught in the throes of young love, secretly dated. Their families, disapproving of their romance, forbade their relationship. Devastated, the couple met at the unfinished Nan Di Wang Building and jumped from the 10th floor balcony, leaving behind a suicide note. Despite their final wish to be buried together, their families buried them separately. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Jiayi, casting a shadow over the building before it even opened, leaving 2 restless spirits behind. After completion, the suicides continued. One man, tormented by chronic illness, jumped from his balcony when alone at home. At 7 a.m. on June 5, 2003, the young woman removed her red high heels on the rooftop of Nan Di Wang Building, left her phone behind, and leapt to her death. Tragically, she landed on a female teacher exiting the building's gate. The scene, 2 women lying motionless, initially led police to believe both had jumped. The young woman died instantly. Police identified her as Zhang, a university student. Her phone contained an unsent message. "Even though we broke up, please remember me." Asen, her ex-boyfriend, lived in the building, and her death stemmed from heartbreak. The teacher, Lin Xiangfen, suffered severe cervical spine damage but survived after emergency treatment. Her left arm was paralyzed, and it took 2 years of reconstructive surgery to regain limited movement, allowing her to lift it 45 degrees. Lin later became a Jiayi city councillor. The tragedies persisted. At 2 a.m. on May 3, 2005, a loud crash woke the dozing security guard at the first-floor management office. A 5-year-old boy had fallen from a high floor into the courtyard. The apartment's door was locked from the inside, and no one else was home. Police couldn't reach the boy's family for over 2 hours. The boy's father, a truck driver and single parent after a divorce, finally arrived at the station. He had left for an urgent job that night, leaving his son asleep alone. The boy, waking to find his father gone, climbed onto a stool, leaned over the balcony crying for him, and slipped, falling from the 10th floor to his death. In early 2009, a man living alone on the 14th floor faced foreclosure due to unpaid mortgage debts. When the new owner, who won the apartment at auction, arrived with court officials to take possession, the locked door required a locksmith. Inside, they found the previous owner's mummified body on the bed. He had died by charcoal poisoning, a method of suicide involving burning charcoal in a sealed space, over a year earlier. Having cut ties with family and with the apartment tightly sealed, no one noticed the smell. The new owner, unaware of the grim discovery, had unwittingly purchased a haunted apartment. The most horrific incident at Nandi Wong Building was a robbery murder 23 years ago. At 2 a.m. on April 5, 2001, the quiet Bar Road was shattered when 2 masked robbers broke into a motorcycle shop on the building's first floor. They stormed the second-floor apartment of the shop owner, Yang Zonghan. His wife, preparing milk, encountered the intruders first and screamed, alerting Yang. Unarmed, Yang was no match for the knife-wielding robbers and was quickly subdued. After a 10-minute struggle, Yang, stabbed 18 times, collapsed. One robber bound his hands and feet while the other forced his wife, clutching their 3-month-old daughter, to hand over her gold wedding jewelry. Skeptical that was all, they ransacked the apartment, found an ATM card, and coerced her to reveal the PIN before fleeing with the loot. After the robbers left, Yang's wife called the police and rushed her husband to the hospital. Despite 2 hours of emergency treatment, Yang died from massive blood loss. The brutal crime sparked widespread fear and the robbers' masks and dim lighting prevented Yang's wife from identifying them, leaving police with few leads. The case went cold, and the culprits remained at large. 9 years later, in 2010, a jewelry store robbery in Taipei cracked the case. The suspect, Jin Zhuxing, 59, was caught after crashing during a police chase. His DNA, entered into a database, matched blood left at the 2001 motorcycle shop crime scene. Jin confessed to the murder, naming his accomplice Zhu Zonghui, a former cellmate from 1994, and another nicknamed Mute, whose identity remains unknown. Zhu, who had a personal grudge against Yang, had enlisted Jin to teach him a lesson. Zhu stood watch outside while Jin and Mute committed the crime. Initially intending only to intimidate, Jin killed Yang. The trio split the stolen gold and fled. Jin later committed at least 3 more robberies. In 2015, during a prison riot in Kaohsiung's Daliao prison, Jin, knowing escape was impossible, died by suicide with a gun. Zhu remains a fugitive, and Mute's identity is still unknown, leaving Yang's family awaiting justice. Media reported at least 7 unnatural deaths at Nandi Wong Building, earning it the moniker Haunted House. Most incidents occurred early on, when management was lax. Later, improved oversight restored some calm. However, in 2014, a netizen's post on PTT, Taiwan's popular online forum, revived the building's eerie reputation with tales of paranormal encounters during their college years. In 2004, the poster, a Jai University student, rented an apartment with classmates to save money. Without seeing it beforehand, they moved in based on its low cost. On moving day, the poster's motorcycle tire burst in the first-floor parking lot. Dismissing it as bad luck, they proceeded to their 5th-floor apartment. The layout unsettled him. 2 merged units form a single apartment with 2 front doors and 2 central pillars, flanked by bedrooms, bathrooms, and a kitchen. The design mirrored itself, with a direct line of sight from the front door to the back balcony, creating an unsettling, hollow feeling. With the school term starting, the student and 5 classmates had no choice but to settle in. One morning, while watching TV with a roommate, sunlight streaming through the kitchen revealed faint marks on the door. Closer inspection revealed a translucent talisman, a paper charm used in Chinese culture to ward off evil, painted on the glass. Both froze, speechless. Days later, a scream echoed from a roommate's room. Rushing in, they found red liquid oozing from a wall crack, dull and unlike paint. The sight terrified everyone. The strange events continued. One of the two front doors faced the elevator directly. Often, opening it coincided with the elevator door's opening, revealing the mirror inside, startling them. They eventually sealed that door shut to avoid the unnerving reflection. Another night, a roommate's girlfriend staying over screamed from the bathroom. Wrapped in a towel, she pointed to the ceiling, trembling. The wooden bathroom ceiling panel was inexplicably standing upright. After calming down, she recounted hearing a pop while showering, then seeing the ceiling flip upward. "Someone must have lifted it," she stammered. The male roommates struggled to reposition the heavy panel, baffled at how it could have moved on its own. That night, fear kept everyone on edge. As silence fell, a metallic screech came from the balcony railing, like nails scraping iron. Checking the balcony, they found nothing. Then the bathroom faucet turned on by itself, but the sound stopped when they approached. The air grew thick with an eerie tension. Returning to their rooms, the scraping resumed. As the poster stood to check the balcony, a low, raspy voice growled near his ear. "What do you want?" Terrified, he roused everyone. Too unnerved to sleep, they huddled in one room until dawn. The next morning, they contacted the landlord to cancel the lease. The landlord, unsurprised, agreed without protest. On moving day, still shaken, a friend suggested bringing a familiar Taoist priest. As they approached, the priest pointed to a building and asked, "Are you staying on the 5th floor of that one?" Stunned, as he hadn't been told their address, they confirmed. The priest added, "There's a woman floating outside the 5th floor, her right face burned, holding a baby." Though the poster didn't name the building, netizens deduced from the clues it was Nan Di Wong Building.